When I was just a little kid, I remember finding it in the corner of a mall. Or maybe it was a large toy store. A video game unlike any other I'd ever played. The toy store felt, as I'm sure they do to all kids, colossal. A sprawling labyrinth of wonder and excitement, with great high ceilings and rows and shelves beyond count of attention-grabbing, vibrant curiosities. There was a big video game section too, tucked away in one subtle corner. At least it felt subtle to me, at the time. And being too short to see over the shelves and stacks only furthered my impression of the size of the place. The video game in question was set up as a demo play. I cannot for the life of me remember the console, but everything else is crystal clear. It comes to me on occasion, in my dreams. I can see it now. I am standing before the console, looking up at the screen. Alone, I have left my parents behind. It is the only place that I dare to do so, as I reason that there are far worse places to get lost than inside a toy store such as this one. I turn my head to look at the promo for the game. It's a cardboard stand taller than myself. The overhead light flickers for a second, sending out shadows across the shelves. The cardboard stand proudly proclaims the name of the game. Explorer 99. It reads in bold text. Beneath it, the titular character has been drawn in such a way that it looks like he's bursting out of the cardboard itself. He is blocky and polygonal. His hair is red, his teeth are white, and his eyes are shining and wide. He is staring at something that I cannot see. I want to know more about him. I want to know his story. And so I tap the controller, fastened to the console with cord and the screen's lights. Enter name. It says simply. I slowly type it in. Jacob, and then press enter. I am greeted by a simple black screen. A sentence of white text appears in the middle. Explorer 99 is lost. He was left behind. I shiver, though I do not know why. I glance around, but it is quiet here. I cannot remember if there was any music playing throughout the store when I had entered, but there is nothing playing now. The cold, hard floor reflects only dimly the flickering lights up and way overhead, and the atmosphere of this fantastic store is now entirely alien to me. Games line the shelves, console accessories. They don't look as bright as they did before. And if I peer around the cardboard cutout, there is nothing but more games, endless rows of endless games. I return my attention to the screen, tapping the controls and subsequently changing the display. The text vanishes, and the game fades into view. It's a menu screen. Blurred in the background is an unrecognizable landscape, and the foreground is comprised of a series of floating text boxes. New game, load game, options, return. After a few mere seconds of considering what to navigate to, the new game selection is made for me with a low and gritty sound effect. The screen fades to black and then slowly to what I presume to be the beginning of the game. I tap the stick to the left and then to the right. I appear to be in control of what can only be Explorer 99 himself. He faces away from the camera. He is short and squat and squarish. I cannot see his face right now like I can on the cardboard cutout. His feet pitter-patter against the ground, but the character himself doesn't seem to be making any noise. There is no music in the game, not yet at least. Explorer 99 appears to be standing in the ruins of a large building, an office of some sort, or maybe a school that's hard to tell. Overgrown, trees sprout up from the floor, and vines form the setting's border. The sky, as far as I can tell, a uniform gray. The ground is a repeated texture, cracked and mossy tile. Roughly half of this ruined school is outside, and the other half is still covered by a long, cracked roof. There are 2 levels that you can reach by climbing up the stairs, and strung up across the walls are a series of mirrors embedded into the tile and trees. If you stand still near one of these mirrors for long enough, I find the camera refocuses. It shifts closer, and you can see Explorer 99's face reflected in the glass. He doesn't look quite like he does in the cutout. There is no pearly white grin. His eyes don't look bright. They seem shadowed and sad. He glances sideways to his reflection. He glances and I start in amazement. I lean closer, dumbfounded. The pixels become blurred and the buzzing of the screen rumbles faintly in my ears as I watch, staring, waiting to watch him do it again. But he does not. His standing still animation simply plays over and over, over and over. A slight shrug in the shoulders, a slight bend in the knees, but nothing more. So reluctantly, I move him along. My hands are sweating, I realize, and my mouth is dry. Despite the poor quality graphics, a part of me feels like I am there with him. I am there with Explorer 99 in the ruins. Is it a curious mismatch of scenery that I explore? Bland, featureless walls, glassy windows, filing cabinets and bare desks. But these are the only man-made objects. The rest is rock and tree and vine. The backdrop is a grim, gray-green forest. And then there are those peculiar, shiny mirrors. All around, some out in the open, some further back in the shadows of the building, on the lower level, hidden and tucked away around corners, by broken staircases that lead to nowhere. After much running around and accomplishing little, I try to jump into one of the mirrors right through the glass, and I find that I am able to do so. Here we go. The world warps and shimmers as Explorer 99 disappears through the glass. The screen changes. It fades to black and then quickly back to pixelated color. I see 99 jump out from the mirror and into a new world. I become all at once a deal colder, and goosebumps shiver up across my skin as I scan the camera around our new surroundings. This place looks massive. The Explorer 99 stands on a little island of stone in the middle of a dark sea. The waves are not designed with any froth, so they bulge and warp disturbingly, like there is something monstrous pressing up from beneath. There's still no music, but an ever-present and subtle bubbling becomes the new backing track as I look around for a way to go. The water, up close and far away, is littered with shattered shards of rock, enormous broken pillars and platforms and arches, watery desolation. There is no shore to be seen, just rock and ruin. So I jump from the island to the closest shard and land awkwardly upon it. I jump from this one to the next, and then to the next and the next. On and on I go, jumping, careful to never fall into the grim, reflectionless water below. After a while, I see something flicker in the distance. A glitch perhaps, but it still unsettles me. And the ruin that I have just jumped to has a series of black scribbled lines across the face of its rocky outcrop, like words. I have the option to select it, and I do so. Accompany that strange, gritty sound effect. A text box appears at the top of the screen. Here lies Jacob, lost to the ways. May he be found again one day. A spike of panic shoots up through my nervous system, and I grip the controller in terrified hands. But of course, it's just a custom feature. I force myself to relax. They had asked for my name at the beginning. It's just a way to freak out the players. Haha, I murmur weakly, eyes still transfixed on the screen. It's all that I can see now. There is nothing else around me, only out of focus shadow. There is the game and nothing more. I jump across the platforms, traversing the surface of the sea. As I land on a wide pillar of stone, two black bars slide into view, one on the top and one on the bottom of the screen. A cutscene. The camera zooms close to Explorer 99. He turns to look out to sea, across the ruins that are scattered far into the distance. We came here together. They were my friends, he says silently, in the form of a text box. And then that's it. The cutscene is over. I become aware of just how empty this game is. There are no enemies, none that I've seen yet. There is no one to interact with. It's lonely, and I feel 99's loneliness as if it were my own. It's just a game. I remind myself as I jump from ruin to ruin. It's not real. But I forget this fact in almost an instant, as my judgment slips. As I land an awkward jump on the curved edge of a ruin, and slide down into the dark water below with a splash. The screen instantly cuts to black and I find myself frozen, breath caught in my throat. I do not know why this game is impacting me so heavily, but I can't deny its grip. I see 99 fade into view in the water. He is a small, pale gray figure amongst the watery shadow. It's so deep, so dark. The abyss. A low-textured something drifts through the darkness far below, barely visible at all. My heart rate skyrockets as I jerk the directional stick around, forcing 99 to swim, to find my way back to the surface. It's getting closer. Come on, I mutter, or maybe I just think it. Come on! But it's not until 99 has safely surfaced with a splashing sound effect, and I have awkwardly scrambled back up onto the nearest ruin, that I am able to allow myself to breathe. My chest aches, and my hands shake as I try to gather myself. The platform is narrow, and I don't have much space. I don't want to fall in again. Once I'm sure that I'm in the clear, I continue along my way, jumping from ruin to ruin, climbing and clambering where necessary. The only sounds are the bubbling of the water, and the taps of 99's feet against the stones. And then, just like that, the ruins come to an end. Or at least, there are no further places for me to jump. I try to turn back but find that the ruins are all in the process of slowly sinking beneath the surface. They dip below the water and shimmer in grayish blue, growing quickly fainter and fainter, and then vanishing altogether. Did I screw up? Did I miss something that I was supposed to collect? I asked aloud, but there is no one to answer, of course. There are only the waves of the pixelated sea. And as I contemplate what to do, the ruin upon which I am standing starts to sink. With gritted teeth, I navigate around the ruin, climbing up it as fast as I can as the water rises from beneath. It's tall, this one, a cracked tower rising up and out of the sea. I clamber up and up, around and around, sweating with the exertion. The dark waters pool hungrily around the tower's base, gradually swallowing it down. It spins in a slow circle as it disappears, and I eventually find myself at the tower's summit. There is nowhere to go now. The camera swings around to refocus, and as it passes over the face of the water, I swear that I catch a glimpse of a large and terrible shape beneath the sea's surface. I reorient in a panic, trying to angle myself so that I can see that same patch of water again. But when I'm successful, there is nothing there. only churning colorless waves. The tower sinks lower and lower. I'm running out of time. "Jump," says Explorer 99 in his silent text box. "What?" I reply, but he says nothing further. So with throat dry and nothing supposedly to lose, I jump, out and away from the tower, and for a terrible moment, I feel as if I'm going to drop. If I will fall to my doom in the abyss, my stomach lurches. But I find myself instead landing on an invisible platform with a thud, shaking but relatively still in midair, as the tower is swallowed up and disappears down into the darkness below. A further few seconds of quiet follow. I dare not to move for fear of falling from the invisible perch into the water. And then a chime sounds through these speakers and the screen cuts away. Another quick fade to black. And when it returns, I am back in the overgrown school, back where I started. The layout is just the same as it was before, but the mirror that I had jumped through is now cracked. It no longer reflects the face of Explorer 99. A placard has appeared at the mirror's base, and I am able to select it. With trembling fingers, I do so. It reads, "In memory of those lost to the flood, what they built for us, we hope to one day see again. We take a time to reflect." I do not like this game. It makes me feel small and afraid and alone, but it captivates me like nothing else that I've ever played. So I carry on through the ruins, round the corners and past the thick undergrowth, and holding my breath, I jump right on through the next of the awaiting mirrors. Explorer 99 and I jump through the mirror, and the screen performs its ritual change to black before fading into the next world. The mirror through which I came is nowhere to be seen this time. I stand in the center of a racetrack, though there are no cars, and the stands are all deserted. I run the length of low-quality grass to the back of the track, and as I step foot onto it, I am met with a quick new cutscene. The black bars narrow the screen in after a beat. Explorer 99 looks to his left and then to his right. The sky suddenly glows in a bright blue, and reddish leaves blow past the camera. Faint ghostly apparitions of cars race around and around, with accompanying sound effects that quickly drift away into nothing. "We would come here together," 99 says with his text box. "They did not mean to leave me behind." And as before, the cryptic cutscene comes to an end. The sky fades to its original gray and the spectral cars all disappear. The silent melancholy returns, and I run around the length of the stadium, jumping and bumping into walls, exploring every inch for a clue, for something, for anything, round and around. There are no objects to interact with here. I don't find a single thing until I have left through a narrow archway in the stadium's wall. In front of me is a pile of tires and a glowing white box in the grass. Bumping into the tires sees them spill and roll out over the grass which forms the endless, flat landscape to the horizon in all directions. "No, not all directions," says a 99, and I clench the controller tight. Can you hear me? Or my thoughts?" I whisper, but there is no response. The glowing white box, once I am standing in it, allows me to select it. Doing so only creates the following message: "Insufficient parts for new vehicle." I try bumping a few tires into the box along with me, but they do nothing, and the message remains unchanged. So I start to run around the outside of these stadium walls. Round and around I go, sticking close to the wall at first. I have an irrational fear that if I stray too far then, I'll be swept away across the vast plains towards nothingness and oblivion. So this does not happen, and after a few minutes of the receptive tap 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 of 99's feet, I reach the other side of the stadium, and there up ahead in the distance stands an enormous, singular mountain. It rises from the grass far, far away, and the face of a girl is carved into the mountain's rock. She stares up longingly at the sky, and a flicker of melancholy familiarity passes over me. It's a feeling that I didn't understand back then, and one that I can only give words to now. "Who is she?" I ask, but 99 says nothing. I push aside my fears of the vast and empty nothingness and set out across the pixelated plains towards the mountain, running in as straight a line as I can. It seems like I'm simply running in place for a while, but then it becomes clear that the mountain is growing larger, steadily drawing closer and closer at a creeping pace. A vehicle would help, I murmur aloud. I could drive there quicker. "She drove the best. She drove the furthest," says Explorer 99. My fear ripples with his words. I do not understand, but I want to. I want to understand so badly. The sense of barely scratching the surface is maddening. I need to know more of what happened here. It takes me a long time to reach the base of the mountain. I do not know how long exactly, but I feel physically exhausted by the time that I have arrived at the poor quality textured rock that rises from the grass. There is, I notice, a small dark groove in the mountainside. I have the option to select it, and I do so. "Let her go," reads a text box across the top of the screen. After a long hesitation, I press the button to agree. Explorer 99 draws an item from his pocket, something mostly red and a little green, and more colorful than anything else I've seen so far in this world, or any of the others. He places it carefully into the groove, and it disappears from sight. A doorway opens in the base of the mountain. I turn to take one last look at the faraway stadium, now small in the distance, and then step on through the doorway and disappear into the mountain's tunnel. The screen fades to black, and when colors return, I am back in the forested ruins. The once shiny portal of a mirror is now cracked and gray, and as before, a placard has appeared at its base. I tap the button and select it to read what it says. "In memory of those precious to us, to those who dared to drive, their spirit, we hope to construct one day for ourselves. We take a time to reflect." Music has started to play from the game, I now realize, although I could not have pinpointed when it started exactly. A gentle yet stirring 8-bit violin, alone in the background. Its chords are long and eerie. I jump through the ruins, down a corridor leading into the dark. There is a large hole in the ground here. I do not want to know if jumping down would lead to a new area, or if it would kill me, so I give it some distance for now. There's a mirror beside it at least, and I run towards it, jumping through to the next plane. The screen fades to black, and then, after taking a moment to load, I find myself standing in a desert. Pale yellowish gray dunes rise up and all around, and simple pixelated faraway clouds drift across a dark and purple sky. I am unable to run particularly high up the dunes. After a certain point, I simply slip back down to these sandy tracks, so I make my way around them instead. The camera pans way back, and I become a tiny figure in the center of the screen. My footsteps small and distant as I cross the desert. The alienation is terrifying. I am desperate to see another character, any character at all. An enemy would do, but there's nothing. There is only solitude. Some of the dunes give way after a while. The enormous, broken skeletons of monsters lay splayed out across the sands, most half buried. Dinosaurs maybe, or dragons. But they are all long dead now. I use the bones of one such wreck as platforms to jump up, until I can reach a new level of desert above the tracks through the dunes. I pass by a rusted and damaged old klaxon, suspended high on a battered metal pole through the sands, and as I do so, it starts to wail. It's low at first, rising to a crescendo, but it gets louder and louder. I can feel it rattle around my head as I start to panic. A text box appears. The storm approaches. Do you remember the storm? And sure enough, in the distance, great billowing clouds have begun their approach. Faded and low textured at first, but becoming clearer and clearer. Lightning sparks from cloud to cloud. It's coming. I start to run, jumping desperately across the desert, but there is nothing. No protection that I can see at all. As if in response to this thought, the camera suddenly changes, and a dark shape becomes visible up ahead down one of the tracks. I turn to head towards it, as the rumbling of the storm grows closer and closer. The shape is the wreck of a lone skyscraper, the last one standing. The edges of the storm start striking into the screen as I approach. I have no visible health, but the edges of the screen flash painfully, as if I'm being dealt damage as the claws of the storm strike out towards me. The world grows darker and darker, and the rumbling only increases. With knuckles white against the controller, I finally make it into the shadow of the skyscraper, and I head on inside with a gasp of relief. There are no doors remaining, only cracked and open doorways, and mercifully, the flashing at the edges of my vision comes to a steady cease. I catch my breath in here and look through one of the broken windows. The light is almost entirely faded now, and it is clear that the building has become enveloped in the stormy darkness of the sand clouds. I catch sight of a splash of color against one of these skyscrapers' bare inner walls, and I turn to look at it. Graffiti. In white, black and blue against the building's dark gray. It's a mural of sorts. A group of people, all with the rough body shape of the titular character Explorer 99. He is amongst them, I see, or at least I think that it's him. The mural doesn't use the color red at all, the color of his hair, but it does look like him. The others all have clearly different features, though they're all smiling, grinning wide with pearly white teeth. I try to move 99 and find that I am unable. A cutscene, perhaps. But there are no black bars at the top or bottom of the screen. Nothing is happening, and I can still move the camera. I try again, and this time we move. There is no furniture in the skyscraper. There are only cracked walls and windows, and a staircase tucked in the corner. I run to it and climb up and around to the next level. The story is the same here, so up I climb. To a third floor and then a fourth. But here, my ascension ends as these stairs in this level are broken. Part of the wall is given way, and I can see out into the rush of the rumbling storm. What I think are supposed to be scraps of paper can be seen on the floor, so I head over to them am in surprise to find that they can be selected. A text box appears at the top of my field of vision. The battles are done now, but the war goes on. I consider this for a moment in somber silence. There don't appear to be any ways for me to go now. I turn to look around the room again and am unsettled to see that an open doorway, leading away into pitch black, has appeared in one of the walls. I swallow anxiously. That'll be the way to go then. And so I run right through, holding my breath as the warmth of the desert is ripped away, as the darkness envelops me in its entirety. And for a while, there is only this, the darkness. I begin to panic. Where's the game? Did I do something wrong? Crap. But just as I am about to shout into the void, the screen returns to color. I am back in the ruined building with its overgrown forest, and as expected, the mirror before me is now cracked with a placard placed beneath. I tap to read it. In memory of the groups we formed, to the tracks that we made across the plains, the sands of time are unforgiving. We take a time to reflect. Explorer 99 stands silent in the shadows. I have begun to cry, though I do not know why. The game goes on. 2 mirrors left, I think, as I turn and race through the ruins. My feet clack, clack, clack against the grass tile floor, and I do not hesitate when I reach the location of the next mirror. On the upper floor and tucked between 2 empty and vine-entangled shelves. Through the glass I go, and the screen performs its dutiful warp and change, fading to black and then back to its dim and dreary light. Except it's different in here. It's dark for sure, but the light comes out in low flashes, yellows, blues, and reds. I appear to be underground in some kind of, I don't know, scientific research center, or something. There are blinking dials and desks, the lights embedded in the walls, but I am not able to interact with any of it. My feet tap against the floor as I explore this mysterious place, though I am disturbed to find that the sounds of the tapping continue for a little longer each time after I have stopped moving. I try to keep my nerves steady and push away the thought that there might be something in here with me. I know what I wished for earlier, for someone or something to interact with, but I take it back now. I take it back as I consider being stalked in the shadows of this underground lair. I spend a long time down here in the dark, between the mysterious desks and dials. The lights are rhythmic, soothing even, despite the potential threat that lurks in the darkness. I discover a console in what I presume to be the area center. It forms part of a round circle of desks, and I am able to select a series of lights on the console surface. Every time that I try, however, I am eventually met with a short and frustrating sound effect and the text box message. You have forgotten us. Over and over, no matter what I select. You have forgotten us. I flume with frustration, unsure what to do. And to my cold dismay, I hear the footsteps come again. Not just an echo of my own though, this time as I've been standing stock still. This time the sound comes of its own accord, and a stab of fear strikes into me. Come on, I mutter desperately. What do I do here? But I work it out even as I ask aloud my question. The rhythmic flashing of the lights. It's rhythmic for a reason. It's a pattern. So I run to the edge of the room and watch the lights flash again, from red and then to yellow, back to red and then to blue, back through yellow, blue, and red. Right, okay. I try it. I run back to the console and try to repeat this pattern. I fail the first time, and the second time too, as the footsteps grow louder and louder. There's lots of them now. They are running in the darkness. Come on. I try again with shaking hands, repeating the sequence of the lights. Tap, tap, tap. Red to yellow, to red to blue. And to my relief, this time it works. There's a bright flash and the sound of exploding sparks. For a second, the entire complex is illuminated in a bright and blinding light. And I swear that I can see a series of somethings all around, blurs between the desks and dials. But the flash only lasts a second before I am plunged in total darkness. My heart beats fast, but I stay stock still, and the darkness eventually disappears. The desks and computer equipment have vanished. Ahead is a lone, large screen. Jacob, it reads in bright yellow. Explorer 99 speaks. His words appear in text across the bottom of the screen. It is so easy to forget. I am sorry. I run towards the screen and passed right through it, as if it were made of water. The lights fade to dark, and when they return, I am again standing back in the overgrown building, the game's central hub. The mirror is broken, and the placard beneath, once selected, reads, "In memory of the lights of our world, to the patterns they created with us in the darkness, we must do our best to remember." We take a time to reflect. A newfound sense of urgency has overcome me. I race through this ruined place, though I cannot help but think now on what it might have once been, on what might have lined these shelves, on who might have frequented here in its prime. I locate the final mirror, at the very back of the building, and semi-obscured by blocky, pixelated leaves, and I jump on through into the unknown. The landscape, when it reveals itself, is red, deep, thick scarlet. The sky is black. Steam bursts from vents all across the alien ground. I seem to take damage if I walk through them, and I wince in pain as the edges of my vision flash and blur. The sound of a high-pitched, whistling tone plays steadily in the distance, loud and shrill, and it sets me desperately on edge. This place is the worst. This is the worst of them. The floor is littered with weapons, guns mostly. They are oversized and many are unusual colors. Dark purples, red. A few are even gold. But I cannot pick any of them up, or interact with them in any way. There's a rifle, a sniper, an RPG, but I cannot take any of them for myself. I am scared now. The sense of impending terror that is steadily built over the course of the game is strong now. I can feel the end and I fear it. Why did we become separated? Explorer 99 asks in his text box. It was so much better before. I have no answer for him. I just keep running and dodging as best as I can. Enormous chains had begun to slither and strike out across the far landscape, unreachable but ominous in the background. 99 speed has dropped significantly. I can no longer run, and it becomes harder to avoid the steam from the earthy vents. Come on, I mutter, through clenched teeth. Come on, 99. The ground has begun to shake. It splits and cracks, and I am met with a cutscene. I stare up to the black sky overhead as the camera shifts. an enormous, blood-stained robe, writhing and uncoiling like a monstrous snake, rises up from the ground, towering tall above us. The end of it frays and splits to create a split-open and worm-like mouth. It roars down at us as sweat clams my hands. It is horrific. The cutscene ends and the rope strikes down towards us. I slam 99 out of the way, though his speed is still massively slowed. To my dismay, as the disorienting music increases in speed and pitch, I realize that I'm still unable to pick up any of the weapons. I try them all as I dodge these strikes of the rope, but nothing seems to work. I am unable to interact with the world around me in the way that I want to. The edges of the world have begun to crack and split and fall away into nothing. 99, I murmur, with iron focus. You have to want to pick them up. I can't make it work without you. You need to want to pick up the weapon. Please. And as the cracks strike out across the ground towards us, as a chorus of other instruments join the music of our world, Explorer 99 starts to glow, faintly at first but noticeably. My choices make no difference, appears in 99's text box. Of course they do, I reply as the rope strikes down again and again. One of them lands, and our vision is blurred with a burst of pain. Please, they do. I'm only a kid. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to say. But words come to me. Something I plead will resonate. They would remember you, 99, and they live through you now. If you want them to live on, then you have to live too. And the aura that surrounds Explorer 99 grows brighter. The angle of the camera changes and a multitude of select icons burst to life around the weapons with a melodious series of sound effects. With a desperate exclamation of relief, I sprint to the nearest, an enormous silver over-the-shoulder thing, and equipped it with a satisfying click. Taking quick aim, I bring it around, and with a burst of colorful fire, the screen is rocked with a shake, and the colossal twisted rope is struck and knocked back with a wailing screech. I run around, jumping from place to place, firing again and again and again, until the rope can do nothing but burn. And at last, it releases one final furious scream and sizzles into black dust. And then, nothingness. I try to move, but am frozen in place. Catching my breath, I look around, tensed, waiting for something to happen next. And we watch. Explorer 99 and I, as a lone, white sun rises slowly above the horizon. The black of the sky starts to shimmer and glitch, from black into shards of gray and then silver, with the occasional flash of blue and yellow. Explorer 99 heads towards it. Not I. I am not in control of his movements as he races across the red plains, but together we reach a lone door, standing by itself in the middle of the path. An option appears to us. Enter. Yes. No. The yes is currently highlighted, but it needs me to select it, so select it I do. I tap the button and I watch as 99 takes hold of the handle. Light spills from behind the door, but I cannot see where it leads. 99 steps through, and he vanishes from sight. The screen fades to black. I am not returned to the overgrown ruins this time. I do not get given a chance to see the cracked mirror, nor to read what was written on its accompanying placard. Instead, a simple line of text appears in the center of the screen. I am overcome with a rush of conflicting emotion as I read it through. Explorer 99 has been found. Thank you for playing. Game over. And that's it. That's it. I realize that I'm staring back into my own face, my reflection in the dark screen of the monitor. I see my hands shaking on the controller. I don't even know what to feel. So I just stand there in silence and read the words over again. I tap one of the buttons and just about jump out of my skin in terror as I feel a hand grab my shoulder. I shout out loud in alarm and look back, staring up into the face of my own mom. "There you are, Jacob," she laughs, already hurrying me away from the games and back through the store. "We were looking for you. It's about to close, you know. Come along now." I try to splutter out a response, but I don't know what to say. There are too many thoughts whirling around my head. From somewhere nearby, I hear the creak and gentle thud of a door opening and closing. I see the lights above the games section flicker as I'm about to be encouraged around a corner. And I see one last thing too, only for a second, but I'm convinced by what I see. The cardboard cutout to the right of the demo game. The character is changed, I'm certain. The face is different. The hair. He has been drawn in such a way that it looks like he is bursting out of the cardboard itself. And above it, in large, bold text, it reads, Explorer 98. And it vanishes from view. I still dream of that game sometimes, you know, and the toy store too. I looked for them, I really did, but I never found them again. My parents took me back to what they thought was the same place in response to my pleading, but it wasn't the same place. It was different. I don't know the whole story, and I'm sorry if I've raised more questions than answers, but please promise me, if you ever find such a game on your travels, please just play it as best as you can. They need our help. I'm sure of it.